For 35 years, I, Ethan Vance, believed my mother was a saint. A pillar of quiet strength, the bedrock of our family. That lie shattered last Tuesday at her annual birthday brunch. In the sun-drenched conservatory of the old family estate, where the scent of lilies usually masked only nostalgia, my cousin, Leo, a man I hadn't seen in decades, stumbled in, visibly shaken. He dropped a dusty, leather-bound journal onto the antique mahogany table, its pages brittle with age. That single moment, that innocuous thud, didn't just break the silence, it tore open the fabric of my entire existence. What was inside? Not recipes, not family anecdotes. Coded entries. Photos of classified documents. And a chilling, meticulously detailed plan to dismantle a powerful tech conglomerate, a plan executed years ago, under the name, Project Chimera. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my family, my legacy, crumbled in the span of a single afternoon. And there she sat, across from me, calmly stirring sugar into her Earl Grey, completely oblivious that the world she'd so carefully built was about to ignite. Before I tell you what happened next, if you enjoy stories about justice and family boundaries, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Where are you watching from right now? And what time is it there? Drop a comment and let me know. I controlled movement, and your end was always part of my route. The annulment papers were supposed to arrive next Tuesday. Instead, I found myself staring at a charcoal gray envelope on my 35th anniversary, surrounded by the 3 people I thought I could trust most in this world. Happy anniversary, Ethan, my mother-in-law Eleanor said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness as she handed me the envelope. Her perfectly manicured fingers adorned with rings worth more than most people's cars, trembled slightly. This is from all of us. I looked around the trendy fusion bistro, the Ember and Ash, where Seraphina and I had our first date 5 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. My wife sat across from me, her phone positioned perfectly to record my reaction. Her brother Julian smirked from beside her, adjusting his expensive watch like he was timing something. "What's this?" I asked, though I already knew. The weight of the envelope, the way Seraphina couldn't meet my eyes, the nervous energy radiating from Julian, it all clicked into place. "Just open it, honey," Seraphina said, her voice barely above a whisper. The pet name sounded foreign coming from her lips. When was the last time she'd called me that? 6 months ago. A year? I tore open the envelope with deliberate slowness, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Inside were annulment papers already filled out with sticky notes marking where I needed to sign. Someone had even highlighted the sections about asset division in yellow. The bistro buzzed around us. Couples laughing, families celebrating, waiters rushing between tables with steaming plates. None of them knew they were witnessing an execution. Julian leaned forward, unable to contain his excitement. "What do you think?" I set the papers down carefully, reached into my jacket pocket, and pulled out the vintage silver fountain pen Seraphina had given me for our first anniversary. The one she'd said represented our future together. Smooth, elegant, and built to last. "Thank you," I said, my voice calm as I signed each page with practiced efficiency. This is exactly what I needed. The confusion on their faces was priceless. Seraphina's phone nearly slipped from her hands. Eleanor's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Julian's smirk faltered. I stood up, dropped 100 on the table, enough to cover the dessert they'd ordered to celebrate my humiliation, and tucked the signed papers back into the charcoal gray envelope. "Happy anniversary to me," I said, sliding the envelope across to Seraphina. "Enjoy your celebration." I walked out of the Ember and Ash with my head high, leaving behind 3 stunned faces and 5 years of marriage. The valet brought my truck around and I tipped him 50 because why not? It was my anniversary after all. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of them through the bistro window. Seraphina was frantically waving her hands. Eleanor was clutching her chest dramatically, and Julian was on his phone, probably calling someone to figure out what had just happened. If only they knew what I'd done before dessert arrived. The discovery happened by accident, like most life-changing moments do. I'd come home early from a freelance data analysis gig, hoping to surprise Seraphina with a weekend getaway for our anniversary. Instead, I got the surprise of my life. I heard voices coming from the living room. Seraphina's laugh and another woman's voice I recognized as Eleanor's. I was about to announce myself when I heard my name. "Ethan's such an idiot," Seraphina was saying. "He has no idea what's coming." I froze in the hallway, my keys still in my hand. "Half his assets, Seraphina," Eleanor replied, her voice filled with satisfaction. "His digital portfolio, the house, the crypto accounts, everything. And Marcus promises you a Swiss Alps retreat once this is all over." Marcus Thorne, Seraphina's mentor at the tech startup where she'd been working for 3 years. The same Marcus who'd been calling her at odd hours. The same Marcus whose name kept popping up in her text notifications. "I can't wait to see his face when we serve him the papers," Seraphina continued. "Julian's going to film the whole thing. We'll have it for the annulment proceedings. Show how he reacted. Make him look unstable. Brilliant." Eleanor cooed. "That boy never deserved you anyway. Digital nomad drifter with delusions of grandeur. Marcus can give you the life you actually deserve." I backed out of the house quietly, my mind racing. Digital nomad drifter. 5 years of marriage. And that's what I was to them. I thought about all the family dinners where Eleanor had smiled at me. All the times Julian had asked for tech advice. All the nights Seraphina had fallen asleep in my arms. All of it had been a lie. I drove to the Cypher Lounge, a speakeasy on the south side where my old childhood friend Leo had been tending bar for the past 5 years. The place smelled like aged whiskey and forgotten secrets, which suited my mood perfectly. "You look like someone just wiped your hard drive," Leo said, sliding a whiskey across the scarred wooden bar. "What's eating you?" I told him everything. The conversation I'd overheard, the months of Seraphina working late, the way she'd been distant and cold. Leo listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or refilling my glass. "So, what's the play?" he asked when I finished. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But they want to ambush me on my anniversary. They want to film my humiliation. Fine, let's give them a show they'll never forget." Leo grinned, the same expression he'd worn before we'd pulled off impossible hacks in our youth. "I'm listening. First, I need to know everything. Who's this Marcus guy? How long has this been going on? What exactly are they planning?" "I know a guy," Leo said. "A digital forensic specialist owes me a favor. Give me 24 hours. The next morning, Leo called with information that made my skin crawl and my resolve crystallize. Marcus Thorne, 48, married with 2 kids, senior partner at a prominent cybersecurity firm. He'd been having an affair with Seraphina for 1 year. They'd been to luxury resorts, weekend getaways, and had even booked a trip to a Swiss Alps retreat for the week after my anniversary, complete with reservations at some exclusive adult wellness center. But the real kicker, Marcus was already married to a high-powered cybersecurity lawyer named Victoria Thorne. The same Victoria Thorne who'd made headlines last year for taking a cheating tech CEO to the cleaners in what the newspapers called the digital divorce of the decade. "There's more," Leo said. "Your mother-in-law has been feeding them information about your digital portfolio. Crypto wallet statements, investment accounts, property deeds. She's been photographing everything when she visits." "How's that possible?" "Turns out Julian works for a tech solutions firm. Not a very good one, but they know how to dig up digital financial information. They've been building a case against you for months." I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. They hadn't just planned to annul me, they'd planned to destroy me. "What do you want to do?" Leo asked. "I want to vanish from the grid," I said, "financially, digitally, completely, and then I want to watch their world burn. I spent the next 36 hours re-architecting my entire digital life. The beauty of being a freelance data analyst is that you understand how to move information quickly and efficiently, including digital assets. My lawyer, Anya Sharma, had handled the incorporation of my consulting firm 5 years ago. She was sharp, discreet, and had no love for cheating spouses after her own messy divorce. "You want to do what?" she asked, raising an eyebrow as I sat in her office at 7 o'clock in the morning. "Transfer controlling interest in my digital portfolio and consulting contracts to a trust with my niece as the primary beneficiary," I said. "Maya's 25, has a master's in cybernetics, and she's been assisting me with projects for 2 years. Seraphina's never met her. She doesn't even know she exists." "That's actually brilliant," Anya admitted. "What about your other assets?" "Crypto accounts get moved to cold storage, legally. The house goes into the trust as well. I want to be worth exactly what I had when Seraphina and I got married. About 75,000 in a 7-year-old coding rig and a beat-up sedan." "This is going to cost you less than an annulment would," Anya smiled. "I like the way you think. Give me 24 hours. While Anya worked her magic, I made other preparations. I installed advanced security cameras around the house, hidden ones that Seraphina would never notice. I copied every file from her tablet, every text message from her encrypted messenger, every email from her cloud accounts. The woman who'd called me digital nomad drifter had made the classic white-collar mistake of assuming I was too stupid to understand technology. I also paid a visit to Marcus Thorne's office. Thorne and Associates occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming data tower in downtown Neo Veridia. Marcus's corner office had a panoramic view of the cityscape and probably cost more to furnish than most people made in a year. I dressed the part. Utility pants, a branded work shirt, heavy-duty boots, the uniform of someone who'd come to fix something. "I'm here about the network cabling," I told his secretary, showing her a fake work order Leo had printed up. "Boss says there's been complaints about the connectivity in Mr. Thorne's office." She waved me through without a second glance. Marcus was on a video conference call, his back to the door as he gestured at the view outside his window. He was exactly what I'd expected. Soft around the middle, expensive suit, the kind of guy who'd never worked with his hands a day in his life. I pretended to check the network ports while listening to his conversation. He was talking about a client presentation, his voice full of the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about real consequences. When he finished his call and turned around, I was standing by his desk. "Who are you?" he asked, startled. "Ethan Vance," I said, watching his face go white. "Seraphina's husband." He opened his mouth to call for security, but I held up my hand. "Relax, Marcus. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to meet the man who's been screwing my wife." "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. "Sure you don't." I picked up a framed photo from his desk. Him with his wife and kids at some mountain resort. "Nice family. Does Victoria know about your Swiss Alps plans?" The color drained from his face completely. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued, my voice conversational. "You're going to continue your affair with Seraphina. You're going to take that trip to the Swiss Alps. You're going to do exactly what you plan to do. But understand this. I know everything. Every luxury resort, every lie, every encrypted message. And when the time comes, I'm going to use all of it. Are you threatening me?" "I'm educating you," I said. "See, you think you're playing chess, but you don't even know what game I'm playing. Enjoy the Swiss Alps, Marcus. I hear it's beautiful this time of year." I left him standing there, probably wondering if he should call the corporate security, call Seraphina, or call his lawyer. It didn't matter. The seed was planted, and doubt is a powerful thing. That evening, I came home to find Seraphina cooking dinner, something she hadn't done in months. She was humming, actually humming as she moved around the kitchen. You're in a good mood, I observed. Just happy, she said, kissing my cheek. Work's been going really well lately. I'll bet it has, I thought. By the way, she continued, I thought we could go to the Ember and Ash for our anniversary. You know, where we had our first date. It would be nice to have the family there. Mom and Julian want to celebrate with us. That sounds perfect, I said. I can't wait. The morning after my anniversary dinner, I woke up to 21 missed calls and 52 text messages. Seraphina was already gone, probably at Marcus's place, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with their perfect plan. The messages were a mix of panic, anger, and confusion. Seraphina, Ethan, we need to talk now. Julian, what the heck was that about? Call me. Eleanor, Ethan, this is unacceptable. You can't just sign papers and walk away. Seraphina again, you're being childish. We can work this out. And then around 4 o'clock in the morning, Seraphina, I know you're getting these messages. Stop ignoring me. I deleted them all and went to work. My consulting firm, Vance Analytics, operated out of a co-working space on the Innovation Hub side of Neo Viridia, 38 contractors, specialized projects with major tech companies across the region, and a reputation for getting complex data solutions delivered on time and intact. My assistant, Chloe, looked surprised when I walked in at 7 o'clock. You're early for an anniversary, boy, she said. How was dinner last night? Enlightening, I replied. Is my niece in yet? Maya? Yeah, she's in the private pod going over the quarterly projections. Maya Vance was my sister's daughter, though most people assumed she was just another contractor. She had her father's algorithmic mind and her mother's ruthless efficiency. I'd been grooming her to take over the business for 2 years, though I'd never told her why. Uncle Ethan, she said when I knocked on her pod door. Happy anniversary. How was the family dinner? Memorable, I said, closing the door behind me. We need to talk. I explained everything. The annulment, the asset transfer, her new role as majority owner of the firm. Maya listened without interruption, her expression growing more serious with each detail. So Seraphina never knew about me? She asked finally. I kept my family separate from hers, I admitted. Your aunt always thought my side of the family was beneath her standards. And now I own 65% of a multi-million-dollar data analytics firm. Now you own 65% of a multi-million-dollar data analytics firm, I confirmed. Think you can handle it? Maya smiled. The same predatory expression I'd seen on her face when she'd negotiated our last major contract. What do you need me to do? For now, nothing. Run the business like you have been. But if Seraphina or anyone from her family shows up here, you don't know me as anything other than an employee. What about when they find out about the asset transfers? That's when things get interesting. Around noon, Seraphina showed up at the co-working space. I watched through the security cameras as she marched through the open-plan office in her designer techwear and smart shoes, completely out of place among the beanbags and whiteboards. I need to speak with Ethan Vance, she told Chloe, her voice sharp with authority. He's in a meeting, Chloe replied calmly. Can I take a message? I'm his wife. Get him now. I'll see if he's available. Chloe buzzed my private pod and I told her to send Seraphina back. I wanted this conversation to happen where I had complete control. Seraphina stormed into my pod like a digital hurricane, her face flushed with anger. What the heck do you think you're doing? She demanded. Working. I said, not looking up from my terminal. You know that thing I do to pay for your lifestyle. Don't play games with me, Ethan. You signed those papers, but you can't just disappear. We have assets to divide, arrangements to make. What assets? I asked innocently. The house, the firm, your crypto accounts. What about them? Seraphina stared at me like I'd grown a second head. They need to be divided according to the annulment settlement. I read the papers, I said. You get half of everything I owned when we got married. Congratulations. You're now entitled to $37,500 and half of a 7-year-old coating rig. That's not what. She stopped, her face going pale. What did you do? I adapted, I said. You see, when someone spends a year planning to destroy your life, you have two choices. You can be a victim or you can be smarter than they are. Seraphina's hands were shaking now. The house belongs to a family trust. Your firm. I'm just an employee now. The crypto accounts. What crypto accounts? She sank into the chair across from my terminal, the reality of the situation finally hitting her. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did, I said. But don't worry, you and Marcus will have a wonderful time in the Swiss Alps. I hear the weather's perfect this time of year. The mention of Marcus's name hit her like a physical blow. How did you know about your affair? Seraphina, I've known for months. The late nights, the secret encrypted calls, the way you started caring about your appearance again. Did you really think I was that stupid? Tears started streaming down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no love. Just cold satisfaction. We can fix this, she said desperately. I'll end things with Marcus. We can go to counseling, work things out. No, I said simply. We can't. You made your choice a year ago. You just didn't expect me to make mine. Ethan, please. The papers are signed. Seraphina, you got exactly what you asked for. Now get out of my pod. She left sobbing, her carefully planned ambush having backfired spectacularly. Through the security cameras, I watched her sit in her car for 25 minutes, probably calling Marcus, probably calling her mother, probably trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Over the next week, I watched Seraphina's world begin to collapse with the same detached interest I'd once reserved for tracking complex data streams across the network. The first crack appeared when she tried to access our joint digital savings account and discovered it had been closed. Then she found out the house was no longer in our names. Then her premium access codes, the ones tied to my subscriptions, were declined at her favorite virtual reality boutique. Leo kept me updated on her movements through his network of mixologists, baristas, and other service industry workers who formed the invisible intelligence network of Neo-Veridia. She's been at Thorne's office every day this week, he reported over drinks at the Cypher Lounge. My guy at the smart coffee shop across the street says she looks like heck. Marcus is not taking her calls. Smart man, I said. He knows his wife could destroy him in an annulment. Speaking of which, Victoria Thorne's been asking questions about her husband's travel plans. I smiled. Has she now? Word is she hired a digital forensic specialist last month. Apparently, Marcus is not as careful as he thinks he is. The second crack came when Julian showed up at the co-working space demanding to speak with me. Unlike Seraphina's emotional approach, Julian tried intimidation. You think you're clever? He said, pacing around my pod like a caged animal. But we know what you did. Moving digital assets, hiding crypto. That's fraud. Is it? I asked. Because my lawyer says it's smart financial planning. We'll see what a judge says. By all means, take me to court, I said. I'm sure a judge will be very interested in hearing about how you and your family conspired to ambush me with annulment papers on my anniversary. How you plan to film my reaction for use in legal proceedings. How your mother committed digital identity theft to access my financial information. Julian's face went white. We never. I have recordings, Julian. Video, audio, documentation of everything. You want to play in court? Let's play. He left without another word. The third crack was the biggest one. Victoria Thorne filed for annulment from Marcus, citing adultery, and demanding an emergency injunction to freeze all of his digital assets. The local tech journal ran the story on their front page, complete with photos of Marcus and Seraphina leaving a downtown luxury resort. Seraphina called me that night hysterical. "They fired me," she sobbed into the phone. "The company fired me. They said I was a liability." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, though I wasn't sorry at all. "Marcus won't return my calls. His wife is threatening to sue me for alienation of affection. Ethan, I need help." "You need a lawyer," I said. "A good one. They're expensive, though. I don't have money for a lawyer." "You took everything." "I took what was mine," I corrected. "You wanted an annulment, Seraphina. This is what annulment looks like." "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I know that now. Can't we?" I hung up on her. But Seraphina's family wasn't ready to give up. Eleanor had spent 60 years getting her way through manipulation, guilt, and social pressure. She wasn't about to let her daughter's meal ticket disappear without a fight. She showed up at my apartment, the modest two-bedroom place I'd rented after moving out of the house, dressed in her finest bioluminescent jewelry and carrying herself like visiting royalty. "Ethan," she said when I opened the door. "We need to talk." "No, we don't," I replied, starting to close the door. She stuck her foot in the gap. Her face twisted with desperation disguised as indignation. "You can't treat my daughter like this. Seraphina made a mistake, but she's family. Family forgives." "Was I family when you called me digital nomad drifter?" I asked. "Was I family when you helped plan my humiliation?" "I never said." "I have recordings, Eleanor, every word." She stepped back, her composure cracking. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want you to leave me alone," I said. "All of you." Seraphina wanted an annulment. She got one. "You wanted me out of your family. I'm out." "Congratulations. You won." "But Seraphina needs to learn that actions have consequences," I said, "something you should have taught her 35 years ago." I closed the door in her face and listened to her pound on it for 5 minutes before giving up. 2 weeks after my anniversary dinner, I got a call from Leo. "You need to get down here," he said. "Now." I found him at the Cypher Lounge with a black eye and split lip, cleaning glasses behind the bar like nothing had happened. "What the heck happened to you?" I asked. "Your brother-in-law and 2 of his tech solutions friends decided to pay me a visit," Leo said. "They wanted information about you. Where you're living, where you work, what your plans are." Rage flooded through me, hot and immediate. "Are you okay?" "I've had worse," he said. "But they made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" Leo grinned, wincing as the expression pulled at his split lip. "They didn't know about the security cameras or the fact that I still have friends from our hacking days or that assault is a felony. You called the police." "I called someone better," he said. "Remember Dante from our unit? He's a cybercrimes detective now. Julian and his buddies are going to have a very interesting conversation with him tomorrow morning." But that wasn't enough for me. Julian had crossed a line by involving Leo. And I was done playing defense. I spent the next day tracking down Julian's friends, the 2 men who'd helped him jump my best friend. It wasn't hard. Julian wasn't smart enough to hire professionals. These were just thugs he knew from whatever dark web forum he'd been frequenting. I found them that evening at a retro arcade on the north side, celebrating their easy payday with cheap synthetic beer and cheaper digital tokens. "You boys have a good time last night?" I asked, sliding onto a bar stool next to them. The bigger one, a guy with biomechanical arm tattoos and a missing cybernetic tooth, looked me up and down. "Do I know you?" he asked. "I'm the guy whose friend you beat up," I said calmly. Both men tensed, ready for a fight. What they didn't expect was the data chip I placed on the bar between us. What's that? The smaller one asked. Footage, I said. From the security cameras at the Cypher Lounge. Clear feeds of your faces, the attack, everything. There's also a copy of the police report my friend filed this morning. They exchanged glances, suddenly less confident. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to call Julian and tell him the deal's off. You're going to disappear from this situation completely. And if I ever see either of you near my friend again, these feeds go to every cybercrimes unit in the city along with your digital IDs and physical addresses. You can't prove nothing, the big one said, but his voice lacked conviction. Can't I? I pulled out my compad and showed them a crystal clear video of them entering the Cypher Lounge, following Julian inside, and emerging 10 minutes later while Julian counted out digital credits. Technology is amazing these days. They left without finishing their drinks. But Julian himself was a different problem. He was family, which meant Seraphina and Eleanor would protect him no matter what he did. He was also stupid enough to escalate things if I didn't handle him properly. I didn't have to wait long for the opportunity. Julian showed up at my apartment building 2 nights later, drunk and belligerent, shouting in the parking lot about what he was going to do to me. I let him rant for 5 minutes, giving him enough rope to hang himself while I recorded everything from my balcony. Then I came downstairs. You done? I asked. Julian spun around, swaying slightly. You think you're so smart? He slurred. But I know things about you. I know where you work, where you live. I know how to hurt you. Like you hurt Leo. That was just a warning, Ethan, Julian said. Next time, he swung at me, a wild drunken punch that I saw coming from a mile away. I sidestepped it easily, letting his momentum carry him past me. He stumbled, caught himself against a self-driving car, and turned around with homicide in his eyes. You want to do this here? I asked. In front of all these cameras, with all these witnesses? Julian looked around, suddenly aware that several neighbors had come out to watch the show. His bravado deflated slightly. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is, I replied. Because if you ever threaten me or my friends again, I'll have you arrested for assault, harassment, and anything else I can think of, and then I'll sue you for everything you're worth, which admittedly isn't much. Julian left, but I knew he'd be back. Men like him always came back. I was right. 3 days later, Julian showed up at my workplace with Seraphina and Eleanor in tow. They'd clearly planned this as their final attack, a coordinated assault designed to corner me and force me to negotiate. They made it past the reception because I let them. I wanted this confrontation to happen on my turf with my people watching, recorded by my cameras. Ethan, Seraphina called out as they approached my private pod. We need to talk. I stepped out to meet them in the open plan office proper, surrounded by my contractors with Maya watching from her pod above. What can I do for you folks? I asked politely. You can stop this childish behavior, Eleanor snapped. Seraphina is your wife. You have responsibilities. Seraphina is my ex-wife, I corrected. As of 2 weeks ago, and my only responsibility is to myself. We know about your little shell game, Julian said. Moving digital assets, hiding crypto. That's illegal. Is it? I asked. Because the Digital Tax Authority seems to think everything I did was perfectly legal. So does my lawyer. So do the crypto exchanges. You can't just walk away from 5 years of marriage, Seraphina said, her voice breaking. We built a life together. No, I said, I built a life. You lived in it while planning to destroy it. There's a difference. The co-working space had gone quiet around us. 38 contractors had stopped what they were doing to watch the drama unfold. I could see some of them recording with their compads. Ethan, Seraphina tried again. I know I made mistakes. You made choices, I interrupted. You chose to have an affair. You chose to plan an ambush annulment. You chose to call me digital nomad drifter. You chose to try to take everything I worked for. These weren't mistakes, Seraphina. They were decisions. So, what happens now? She asked desperately. Now you live with the consequences of your choices, I said. Just like I'm living with mine. This isn't over, Julian said, stepping forward aggressively. Yes, it is, I replied. Because if any of you ever contact me again, if you ever show up at my workplace again, if you ever threaten my friends again, I'll make your lives very, very difficult. How? Eleanor demanded. I smiled, the expression cold enough to make her step back. I'm a data analytics expert, Eleanor. I know how to move things. Information, digital currency, people. I know how to track data streams across the network, how to coordinate complex cyber operations, how to make sure things end up exactly where they need to be. Do you really want to find out what I can do when I put my mind to it? They left without another word, but I could see in their eyes that this was far from over. They'd regroup, make new plans, find new ways to attack me. I was counting on it. The end came 3 weeks later, but not the way any of us expected. I was at the Cypher Lounge with Leo, celebrating his recovery from the beating Julian's friends had given him when Victoria Thorne walked in. Marcus's soon-to-be ex-wife was everything Seraphina wasn't. Confident, self-possessed, and absolutely ruthless. Mr. Vance, she said, approaching our table. I'm Victoria Thorne. I believe we have some mutual interests to discuss. Leo raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything as Victoria sat down. I know about your situation with your ex-wife and my husband, she continued. I also know about their little Swiss Alps adventure, which is scheduled for next week. Congratulations on your annulment, I said carefully. Victoria smiled, the expression sharp as a blade. Thank you. Marcus is going to lose everything. Of course, the house, the firm, custody of the children. I'm very good at what I do. I'm sure you are, but I have a proposition for you, she said. Something that might benefit us both. She slid a data chip across the table. Inside were encrypted files, crypto transaction records, luxury resort receipts, and a detailed timeline of Marcus and Seraphina's affair. I've been documenting my husband's infidelity for months, Victoria explained. I have enough digital evidence to destroy him in court, but I want more than just a favorable annulment settlement. What do you want? I want him to suffer, she said simply. I want him to understand what it feels like to lose everything you've worked for, and I think you want the same thing for your ex-wife. She was right, of course. But I was curious about her angle. What are you proposing? Marcus and Seraphina are leaving for the Swiss Alps tomorrow night, Victoria said. They think they're finally free to be together, to start their new life. What they don't know is that I've already contacted the international cyber tax authorities about Marcus's crypto tax evasion. He's been hiding assets in offshore digital accounts for years. That's between you and him, I said. True, but what if Seraphina were to be implicated as well? What if it appeared that she'd been helping him move digital currency illegally? What if she were to be detained by Swiss customs when they tried to return to Neo-Viridia? The implications were staggering. Seraphina could face international fraud charges, extradition proceedings, years of legal battles she couldn't afford. That seems excessive, I said. Though part of me was intrigued. Does it? Victoria asked. Your ex-wife destroyed your marriage for money. She conspired with my husband to defraud you in an annulment settlement. She participated in moving assets to hidden digital accounts. From where I sit, she's as guilty as he is. Leo leaned forward. What exactly are you asking Ethan to do? Nothing illegal, Victoria said. I just need some information. Seraphina's digital passport ID, her travel itinerary, her compad records, things that would help the authorities build their case. I don't have access to that information, I lied. Victoria smiled. Of course you don't. But if you did, and if you were to share it with the appropriate authorities, Seraphina might find herself in a very difficult situation, one that would make your little asset protection scheme look like child's play. She stood up, leaving the data chip on the table. Think about it, Mr. Vance. But don't think too long. They leave tomorrow night. After she left, Leo and I sat in silence for several minutes. That woman is scary, he said finally. She's also right, I admitted. Seraphina did participate in Marcus's schemes. She did try to defraud me. She did choose to destroy our marriage for money. So, what are you going to do? I thought about Seraphina's face when she'd handed me the annulment papers. The satisfaction in her voice when she'd called me digital nomad drifter. The months of lies and deception that had led to that moment. I'm going to give Victoria Thorne exactly what she wants, I said. The next evening, I sat in my apartment with a glass of synthetic whiskey and my terminal, watching the flight tracker on my screen. Neo Veridia Air Flight 777 to Zurich International Airport had just taken off from the city hub, carrying Seraphina and Marcus toward what they thought was their new beginning. What they didn't know was that Swiss customs officials were waiting for them with arrest warrants, extradition requests, and evidence of international crypto money laundering that would keep them tied up in legal proceedings for years. What they also didn't know was that Victoria Thorne had played us all. My compad rang around midnight. It was Maya calling from the co-working space. Uncle Ethan, she said, her voice tight with concern. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where the Federal Cyber Bureau just showed up with a warrant to search our financial records. They're looking for evidence of crypto money laundering, digital asset concealment, and conspiracy to commit fraud. They have documents showing that our firm was used to move digital currency for Marcus Thorne's offshore accounts. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Victoria Thorne hadn't just wanted revenge on her husband and Seraphina. She'd wanted a scapegoat for Marcus's crimes, someone to take the fall while she walked away clean. She'd played me perfectly. Uncle Ethan. What do we do? I looked out my apartment window at the city lights, thinking about Seraphina and Marcus sitting in a Swiss jail cell, probably blaming each other for their situation. Thinking about Julian and Eleanor, who would soon discover that their daughter was facing international criminal charges. Thinking about my firm, my contractors, my carefully constructed new life. Victoria Thorne had given me exactly what I'd wanted, the complete destruction of everyone who'd betrayed me. She'd just forgotten to mention that I'd be destroyed along with them. Uncle Ethan. We call our lawyer, I said, and we prepare for war. But as I hung up the compad, I found myself smiling. Seraphina had wanted to see what I looked like when I was truly angry. When I had nothing left to lose. She was about to find out. Lessons from this story. Betrayal can come from those closest to you. Knowledge and strategic planning are powerful defenses against deceit. Revenge, though satisfying, often carries unforeseen and significant costs. All actions have consequences, which can impact many beyond the initial scope.